everyone! Remember me? I'm QJ and I have adventures sometimes. Not all the time. Just, I don't know. Here I am, trying to let you know that I still exist. I actually had some time this past month to watch some shows and read some books, so I'm just gonna tell you about them. Kat's here with me, and she's gonna sit quietly and listen, and hopefully
and
whenever
rudely
I'm having
interrupt
a
you
lull,
on occasion, like you do with me all the time.
she can interrupt me because I get nervous when it's just my voice anyway. So
it's really weird, like, you know, you leading an episode because you haven't done it for like 4 months.
I know. Well, like we should let all of our one listener know that we recorded an episode, but the audio for some reason recorded in double time, so the whole episode sounded like this.
It was spectacular.
It was genius.
Also, you say one listener. I'm pretty sure you get more listeners than I do, which is the real shame of why the fact that you stopped doing them.
Yeah, especially because your episodes are definitely better than mine. Anyway,
I don't know. You talk about books. People like books.
Books. People go on YouTube to listen about books. I tell you, that's
exactly
why
what people
YouTube
do.
was invented.
What are you talking about today, then? What have you got for us?
Okay, so I'm just gonna start with books. I spent most of the month, or whatever time periods we're doing this in now, reading Under the Dome, which is a really popular Stephen King novel. It's about 1,000 pages, so it like broke my back carrying it to and from work every day. It's basically the plot of the Simpsons movie.
God, I was gonna make a joke, and you whiz-pigged me.
That joke's been made 100 times.
Now I gotta think of a new joke. Damn it.
Obviously, because it's Stephen King, this book was amazing. You know, like, it's this small town in Maine where everyone knows everyone's name, and this just big dome, like, falls out of the sky and just entraps them in it. And it messes with, like, the weather and the heat inside, and, like, everyone's electricity goes out, and everyone's, like, generators and propane tanks start dying, and everyone starts, like, starving and killing each other to get to the local grocery stores to get their alcohol. And the mayor or whatever of the town has, like, these horrible secrets, like he's been using a lot of the town's propane to make meth the past several years, and he's like, he becomes this like totalitarian dictator of the town because he enlists his son, who's crazy, in the police force, because he's like, during these trying times, we're going to need more policemen because all our policemen were out of town when the dome came down. And so all these, like, psychotic 18-year-olds become, like brute police officers, and there's a bunch of, like, murders that get covered up, and it's like Lord of the Flies in a small town. It's really terrifying. And, but the first chapter is my favorite part, actually, which makes it sound like the rest of the book sucks, but the first chapter is just about how when the dome comes down at like certain edges of the town, it goes to the point of view of this little woodchuck that's crossing the street looking for garbage to eat, and then he gets chopped in half by the dome, and it's just like his like guts fall everywhere, and someone's like reaching across their garden to like pick a flower, and their hand gets chopped off, and then it's like and it's really funny and really terrifying. And then an airplane flies into the dome, and it just crashes, and like body parts fly everywhere, and things explode into fire, and every time someone walks into the dome, they break their nose, because you don't realize when you're walking at quite a quick pace, even though it feels slow to you, but you run into something and then your face breaks, or the dome is like got an electromagnetic like buzz to it, so you get too close and then the pacemaker in your heart explodes out of your chest and you die. And
what?
yeah, that's how.
Explain why. Because I'm getting all of my. I'm just picturing the Simpsons movie here, where it's just a big glass dome. What actually is the dome made of? Something that isn't just a big glass dome? Why has it got an electromagnetic field?
It makes like electronic things like break down. Like if people go near it with their cell phones, they like fuzz out, or they like break or explode.
Also, my main question here is, why did they get domed? Like,
oh, well, that was the question throughout the whole book. Is they're like, why is this here? It's a government conspiracy. What's happening? that someone on the inside is making it happen because they're trying to kill everybody. And this town has like 3,000 people, and by the end of the book, only like 20 people survive. And that's partially because a couple people who were meth addicts went crazy and decided to blow up the place where all the meth was being kept, and then there was like a huge fire explosion, and then because nothing can get out of the dome, all the CO2 and ash like created this bubble, and then everyone started suffocating.
Surely that would happen anyway. Like, if there's no gaps in the dome,
it would.
Surely they're gonna run out of
after, like,
oxygen anyway.
Several years. But so the whole book, like the two main characters who are this like out of towner who got stuck in the town, and then this reporter who they're trying to work together not only to like get out of under the reign of the like new like mayor dictator guy who's like trying to squash everybody, and so they're trying to figure out what's causing the dome and like how to stop it, and it ends up having nothing to do with the government. It's Stephen King, so of course it's aliens, because God. Why not? You spend 1,000 pages reading about these like incredibly authentic human stories, and like it has like a really large cast. Like you get to know almost everybody in the town, and it's so confusing because there's so many characters, but you get so into the lives of each of these characters that you can't help but know them, and that's what I love about the way he writes. But so many of them end up dying, so you're like, what was the point of that? And so it's an incredibly human story, like really realistic. And then at the end, they go and find this thing that's projecting the dome, and when they get too near it, they have like visions of the creatures that put it down there, and it's like, oh, they're like alien amoeba blob children.
Is it just like a science study?
Well, it's like they talked about how sometimes when you're a kid, you take a magnifying glass and you like burn up ants on the sidewalk. And then you feel bad because you're like, oh, those ants are alive and they have their little ant lives. And then they have to like try and communicate with these aliens who are just like children and are like messing with these humans because they see them the way we see ants. And then they have to be like, stop burning us up. And they do. And
that's very silly.
And it is very silly, but they make a connection to one of the main characters' like childhoods, like when she was being bullied. Yeah. And she feels like the same way then that she did now, and these aliens are bullying her. I don't know. The way it's written is very, like, like makes me feel like a bullied child again. So it's a pretty satisfying ending, even though the last like 150 pages really dragged on. Stephen King does have an issue with like dragging on his endings. It's like kind of like having a super, super interesting conversation with a really intelligent person, and you're like really into it, and you're like, oh, this person's so smart. Like, I love what they're saying. And then they're about to make their final point, and then they're like, wait. I have so much more to say, even though it's not relevant and not important, but I have to say it before I finish. And then you just have to sit there and listen, and you're like, oh, you could have been done so long ago. Oh, okay.
So it's like listening to me talk about movies.
Oh, sure. So it took me a while to finish because after a while I got bored of the ending, but the end was satisfying. Cool. I love his attention to detail. Like, he said he refused to continue writing this book until he had gotten help from like meteorologists and people that like knew like medical details, because a lot of the book takes place in the hospital where there's only like candy stripers to be doctors, because all the real doctors like either die or like out of town at the time. So Stephen King doesn't mess around with making all his details like incredibly real, which is what I appreciate.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, that book was awesome. A couple other books I wrote. So last episode...
All those books you wrote.
Oh yeah, all the I wrote
Hell
it.
Yeah.
I read 2 more books by Sara Gruen, who wrote Water for Elephants. And the last episode, that's what I'm going to refer to it as from now on. I talked about one of her books called At the Water's Edge, which was lovely. It was the one that took place in Scotland because they were trying to find the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, I remember that.
It took place during World War II, and this girl was found out she was in a really crappy, like, loveless marriage, and she never got to be anything because she was just always the pretty wife. But then she goes to this actual impoverished area of this country and decides that she wants to care about people and get away from her crappy husband, and it's a really fun story. I loved it. And Water for Elephants is also amazing. And then I picked up writing lessons. And the first chapter was, well, just the prologue was beautiful. Like, again, I love attention to detail. And it just talks about the main character in a competition riding her horse and how she feels when she jumps this horse and how she feels like she's flying and how she's just like so connected with her animal. And I'm like, this makes me want to ride horses and learn how to jump them. Like, this is amazing. And then the rest of the book is such garbage. And I'm like, what happened? Like, I am not sympathetic with this character. Like, her life falls apart in the course of 2 pages, which is the sloppiest exposition I've ever read. Like, her husband leaves her and she gets fired and she finds out her teenage daughter is just like a rebel and hates her. I'm like, okay, so this chick's got problems and then I don't even like her. And it's not like when a character is a bad person. It's because writers can take a bad person and still make you care about them. But like, I just like didn't care about this woman.
Horseman. What?
What?
Nothing.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I assume we're talking about that later. Yeah, just saying.
Oh, a bit probably.
Anyway, do go on.
Anyway, what? Oh, what was I talking about? I lost my train of thought.
This book was about a bad person.
She has to go live with.
Well.
No, she's not a bad person. She's just, her life's falling apart. Okay. And after her horse died when she was young, she's like, I'm never riding again. Oh, dramatic, which is dumb. And then she has to go live with her older mom who owns a stable, and she has to run the stable because her father's dying. And then this horse comes in, and she suspects that it's related to her old horse who she loved more than any other person because she doesn't have a soul. I don't know. And then she's like, I'm never riding again. And she has to try and like hide this horse from the authorities and get custody over it. And it's like, I don't know, it's not interesting. I don't care about her struggle because she's also having like romantic struggles with like an ex-boyfriend. And then she's like struggling to connect with her daughter and her mother. And I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint why this wasn't interesting to read. It's not. I realize it's much easier to pinpoint why you like loved or didn't love a film or a TV show, maybe because you can hear it and you're looking at it. Yeah. But with books, it's just, I can always just tell. Yeah. It's kind of like when, I don't know, when you can look at like a beautiful like masterpiece of a painting versus a scribble. And even if you're not trained in art, you can tell why one is better than the other, even if you know nothing about shading and colors and sketching and all that. I don't know. Yeah. This book just wasn't good to read. And it had a sequel. I was like, I'm not even touching that. This is so boring.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But I was like, Sara Gruen, what happened? Like, your other books are fantastic. And like, did your editor die? Or did you just... And I realized that she wrote writing lessons first, like in 2005, and then the sequel a year later. And then she just decided to literally get good. Because the next year, she came out with Ape House, which I also read this month, which was delightful. It was wonderful. So she just decided to stop being bad, and her other books needed to just go on a fire and just read Ape House and Water for Elephants and At the Water's Edge, because those are the only ones that matter.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess she just decided to grow up. I don't know. Ape House is delightful. It's about these 2 people, Isabel and John, who... Isabel is the caretaker of these bonobo apes, who I guess share. Again. Oh, I knew you were gonna say that.
It's always apes.
It's always monkeys or apes.
Always comes back to apes with you.
Yeah, I wanted to read this book because it has American Sign Language in it. So I guess bonobo apes share 97% of the same DNA as humans.
The bonobo apes, the ones who are always having sex and orgies. Yeah. Yes, I was gonna Google it, but I'm glad you knew that. Okay.
Yeah, they have lots of sex. And they can hear and understand English and speak ASL with each other, which I think is bizarrely cool. And so this woman, Isabel, is the caretaker of these like 6 apes, and then their research facility gets bombed, and all the apes get stolen. And they get stolen by this guy who puts the apes in this like reality TV show where they just put them in a house and let the apes like order food and furniture and like toys online. Which they can do because they're that intelligent, and it's like...
I love it when a story of a book just takes a twist that I just was not expecting.
I wasn't expecting it either. And
because it goes so quickly when you're explaining it, and I'm just like, wait, what? Well, no, what?
And well, the problem was like this TV show became so popular, like the whole world was watching these apes like order cheeseburgers and sex toys online, and I'm just like, I don't know why everyone would tune into this all the time. Like,
I would. That's hilarious.
Like maybe it's something you would like scan past on Animal Planet, but then be like, okay, I'm gonna go watch an actual TV show where things are happening. Because
okay,
apes just sit around and groom each other and then have lots of sex. Which,
to be fair, fiction gets away with this a lot. Because, like, if you think about, like, The Truman Show, why are people watching that? Like, all fictional TV shows are inherently, like, they're always just really boring, and you're like, why would anyone watch that? Like, same deal with The Truman Show, I can't think of any other examples. But it's just like, no one would watch that. But in this fictional universe, I suppose people want to watch it. I'd watch it for a bit. Like, I'd watch 10 minutes of an ape. I'd just tune into, like, highlight streams.
Highlight streams, there you go.
I feel like on YouTube, you'd get just like highlight montage, ape buying a dildo, and you're just like, that's great.
But yeah, people were watching this in bars, like restaurants, like installed TVs so that people could watch Ape House all the time. And I'm like, this can't be that big of a deal. Yeah, it's the same thing as the Truman Show.
Why do people do that?
I don't know. But apparently, like in actual Animal Planet, there was a show called Meerkat Manor, which everyone tuned into because these meerkats were families, and people were like, oh no, the mommy is being mean to the daughter, and then the dad is doing this, and it's like, how do you even tell the meerkats apart? All the same things.
To be fair, same thing with the Kardashians, like, whatever, but...
You can't tell them apart?
Yeah, because they're all just the same generic, famous human being. My favorite meerkat fact is, if you take one meerkat away from all the other meerkats, away from their family, they don't know what to do and they just kill themselves.
Oh,
like, meerkats will just slam their heads against a wall until they die because they don't know how to, like, they can't comprehend being alone. And it just freaks them out and they just kill themselves. It's so dark.
Terribly dark.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting that they care so much about, like, their social life that they can't be alone.
Yeah, it's why you can't have them as pets, really, because not having a whole
troop. It's sad that
troop
people
is,
have
like,
done that
screwed.
to them enough that they realize that that's a pattern in their lifestyle. Anyway, this book, and so the other character, John, is like a reporter, and he's trying to like fix his like depressed, broken marriage, because his wife wants to be a Hollywood star, and he is like getting fired from his writing jobs, but then he gets a job to write about the apes. And then he meets Isabel and thinks she's really pretty, and she gets cheated on by her fiance, and then he leaves because he doesn't love the apes as much as she does. And of course, I can see from a mile away this extremely predictable storyline where you got two people who are already in relationships, and then those fall apart, and then they get together.
Yeah.
And this is just so old. I can't stand it anymore. And maybe I'm just like, as a married woman, I'm completely offended by the fact that people are always like, I'm leaving my marriage or relationship for this new person, blah, and then it's magical, happily ever after, and I'm just so done with it. But it didn't end up turning out that way, so I was really happy. They ended up just like working together to rescue the apes, and he like wrote a really good, piece about it, and they remained friends, and he like fixed his marriage, and then it was actual happy ending. So I was like, oh, good! Yay! Book redeemed! And there were a lot of very, very human moments in this book. Like there's a point where John is like staying at this hotel that's across the street from a meth lab, which is which he originally thinks is a pizza place. And he goes in there to try and order pizza, and they like leave for half an hour and bring him back Domino's, and then it like smells like nail polish, and it's terrifying. I thought it was a front for like a brothel, but it turned out to be a meth lab because it exploded, and then he...
Why is it with meth labs exploding in this episode? Oh, what? Reporters, meth labs? What is today?
I don't know. And then these like strippers who live in the hotel room above him, who he's been fighting with all week, like help him like rescue someone from the meth lab, and then they become friends, and then the strippers help him take down the like creepy guy who's keeping the apes captive, because the stripper knows him from a club that she works at, and so they help take him down, and it's all like, like teamwork.
Such a bizarre story.
And I love it.
What is this?
And once again, we got the theme of attention to detail in these stories, because you've got little things like, the character will be lying on a bed, not knowing what to do with his life because he's deep in thought, and then a car drives by and it makes the light from the window like shine across the room on his face, and it puts such an image in my head of what's going on that I forget that I'm reading a book because I feel like I'm watching the whole thing, and I love that kind of stuff. So this book was great. We're getting past Sara Gruen. In fact, did I read any more? Oh yeah, much earlier in this ambiguous time period, I read Flowers in the Attic, which, okay, so my friend Cinnamon was like, you should name drop me on Across the Pond. And I was like, hey, well, you have to suggest something to me so that I can say your name. And so she gave me some TV shows, and this
was the most forced name drop I've ever heard in my life.
And I was like, what's your favorite book? And she's like, Flowers in the Attic is pretty good. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. And I started reading it, and I didn't like it that much, but it was clear enough that like I could read it without daydreaming. So I got through it. And then I talked to her about it, and I was like, it was fine. And she's like, yeah, I only read the first couple chapters. I didn't finish it. And I'm like, Cinnamon, why'd you make me read this? And she's like, my mom said I should read it. And I was like, well, I don't want to name drop your mom.
I love that.
And
I love it.
So this book was like, I don't even know how to describe the writing style. The closest thing I can think of is those old repetitive romance novels that like Danielle Steele puts out.
Right.
Where,
I don't know who that is, but sure.
I don't know, like she writes like 30 romance novels a year, and somehow they're all different enough to sell as bestsellers. And I've never read one. And I looked it up, it's genred as like gothic fiction, which I think is incredibly ambitious, because I think gothic fiction is like Frankenstein and Dracula and Edgar Allan Poe and like really awesome stuff. And this wasn't horror, and it wasn't romance unless you count the incest. And it's just these kids, their father dies, so they and their mom have to go live with their crazy rich psycho grandma, and who hates children. So they lock them in the attic, and they just have to live there like their whole lives. Like the book takes place over like 6 years, and they stay in this one room, and they're brought like food and toys and junk every day, but they're all like, you can't keep us in here. And the mom eventually like stops visiting them every day and becomes obsessed with her new boyfriend. And it's actually much more interesting to like talk about and hear about than it was to read, because the dialogue and like the thoughts that these characters had were so inhuman that like I didn't care about them at all. And I just wanted the book to be over. And then like you got a brother and sister who are about like 11 and 15, and then they're like twin baby siblings who are like 2 years old, and they all have to, I guess they were raised to like not feel any sort of like shame or awkwardness about their bodies. So like they would all just like live together, and like it wouldn't really matter if they like took baths in the same room or like changed in the same room. So there was no sexual awkwardness there, which I thought was fine. Like that's a cool way to raise your kids. But then all of a sudden they like go through puberty, and they are like, oh, you're the only one in this room, so I love you now. And I'm like, this is like I don't, why is this happening? Like, is this how you like, the only way you can classify this novel as romance is if like his brother and sister start like wanting to get it on with each other? I don't know. It was really awkward. And then there were a lot of like heavy Christian themes in the books, because the grandma is like psychotic, like Nazi Christian, and she's like you guys aren't allowed to look at each other, or I'm gonna whip you to death. And I'm like I don't know. This book was crazy, and it wasn't really interesting to read, and I don't know how I got through it. And then by the end of the book, they finally escaped and got on a train, and they're like, we're gonna get revenge one day. And then there's 4 more books. And I'm like, how do you make this into a series? It's not even, like, I don't care about these kids' lives. I don't want to go into their adulthood where they start like having babies with their siblings. Oh, so weird. And it's like incredibly dramatic.
Is just my favorite part of making this show. I love when you get mad about things. It's my favorite.
It's the weird word soap opera, it's a soap opera in book form. It was so dramatic and over the top, and I don't understand how people have that type of taste to like get through 6 of these books. And I looked this lady up, and she wrote this book in like the late 70s, and she's got 15 different series, almost all of which have at least 5 books in them. Right. But then I found out that she died in 86, and she's still writing books because she has ghostwriters that are writing under her name. So, like, that doesn't count.
Yeah. What?
So, I just kind of want to forget that book ever happened. I put my foot in that genre and just taking it right out and never walking down that road again. So those are some books.
That's what happens when you suggest something to QJ. She tears it apart rudely.
Well, I mean, at least Cinnamon didn't even like it enough to read past chapter 5.
Yeah, true.
So
I feel like if someone suggested a movie to me and was like, "Oh, I watched the first 2 scenes," I'd be like, "Why would you do this to me? Like, why?
Why'd you make me do that?"
Did you not know if it would be good from that, just the first 2 scenes or chapters or whatever?
It's okay. Cinnamon and I bond over Hamilton, so she's still a wonderful friend.
She hasn't been abandoned yet.
I will never abandon her. She has red hair.
Okay.
I didn't know where I was going after that. Let's see. Okay, TV shows. TV shows. Shay and I finally finished Lost, and it was spectacular. It could have been 5 seasons instead of 6 because there were quite a few filler episodes or episodes that like the stories dragged into like 3 or 4 episodes when they could have been 1.5. But that's one of my only complaints. I wasn't really into the sci-fi aspect of the show, but I kind of got over it because it turned out to tie in really well with what they were doing with the story. What I loved to find out was that the writers knew exactly what they were doing pretty much from the beginning, because there were really important things that happened at the end, and you were like, "Oh my gosh, I saw that mentioned in episode 1." Like it all tied together. Yeah. And it's some of the absolute best character development I've ever seen in any movie, any series. So many of these characters and their family arcs and their love triangles, like I care more about than I was ever expected to. I cried a lot. I laughed a lot. It was really, really good show with a lot of incredibly human moments, especially for a show with like this like weird, like, you know, sci-fi time travel-y. And it does time travel really, really well. Okay. By the way, I didn't know that show did time travel. Yeah, in such a way that it like, I don't know, it's not in a, I don't know, it's the first thing I've ever watched or read with time travel that I'm like, this is perfect. This is like how time travel is supposed to be done. They're not screwing around with it. No one's going back in time going, we should change stuff so that the future, changes, because the way Lost does it is you can't change what's already happened. So if you go into the past, like you're still living in your like timeline. Like you're living your life in one straight line, but now you're back in the 70s and you can't like kill anyone who is still alive in the 2000s because it just doesn't work that way. What happens already happened. And I don't know. I don't like when things like when people try and change or alter the timeline, because I just don't think it should work that way. So it works really well in Lost. I love the relationships that happen and the way like characters go through their arcs, and I feel like I'm like living their lives with them and going through everything they're going through with them. And it's a really good show. Cool. Really fantastic. I liked the like socioeconomic, that's probably not the right word, but it sounded really smart when I said it, aspect of it. The whole Lord of the Flies thing when they're all trapped on an island for the first season and a half, and it's just character development. And I've been saying character development this entire episode because I love good characters.
This is the character development episode.
The character development and meth episode. And they're all just trying to survive with each other, and it's fantastic. And every time a season ended, I'm like, they can't possibly do more, like, with this show. And then, like, some other, like, weird twist gets brought up, and I'm like, holy crap, this is happening now? Like, this character now has, like, a father who actually is trying to, like, find this island and, like, make profit off of it, or, you know, this character actually has, like a daughter that he didn't know about and it's related to this other person on the island, or, like, bizarre stuff like that you think would become overwhelming, like, all the information that's going on in the show, but it's not. It's all incredibly interesting. It's like you're eating a delicious feast, and then some people keep coming in with, like, drinks and desserts and more food, and you're like, I just realized I'm still hungry! Woo! It's fantastic. And
nice.
for all the haters out there that said it was the worst ending in history, it was a perfect ending, and everyone else can just suck a bag of dicks, because it was the only, like, it wasn't the only way it could have ended, but, like, I mean, it was perfect. It was a good ending. It's fantastic.
Nice.
And
good.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you how it ended?
No, I don't. I don't care, and I don't want it spoiled. So.
What do you mean you don't want it spoiled?
It's a weird paradox. I don't care, and I'm never gonna watch Lost, but maybe I will someday. And I want the mystery to be there. I want to not know what the ending to Lost is.
The ending was fantastic. That's what it was. And everyone who complains about it is stupid and unintelligent. They're the same people who complain about the How I Met Your Mother ending, which is also the only way that show could have ended. It's perfect. And people are just whiny baby brats when their favorite show ends. They just are mad that it's over, so they are mad at how it ended. It's like, I don't know.
Are you happy that you got that rant off your chest there?
A little bit. I could go on and on, but
I don't think you should.
my train of thought often derails, and then
I didn't think I'd hear anything about Lost past, like, after, like, 2012. I thought Lost was just a distant
that I was able to
memory
watch this whole show with no spoilers. Like,
true.
Stranger Things.
I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it.
It's so good.
Don't spoil it. I swear to God, if you spoil it, I'm gonna be really
I'm not
mad.
gonna spoil anything except that I love it, and Finn Wolfhard's amazing, and the best actor in the whole show has almost no lines.
Who's the best actor in the whole show? Unless that's a spoiler, and then don't say it.
No, it's the girl.
Okay.
Millie Bobby Brown, I think, is her name.
Okay.
She's
I
fantastic.
think you meant like an established actor was in it, and they didn't have any lines or something. Okay, cool.
No, she's one of my favorite new child characters ever,
Mm-hmm.
and I love a show with good kid actors.
Yeah.
Like kid actors can really make or break
yeah,
a
definitely.
movie or a show. And
Mm-hmm.
not only were the actors good, but I loved the characters. And
yeah.
I don't know, maybe because I relate to kids more than adults. I don't know, but these kids are smart, and I don't know. I loved it being in the 80s because I don't know, the soundtrack to the show.
It was cool.
You can't let me ramble without a script. I just sound stupid. But you don't want me to spoil anything, so I don't know what to do. I didn't know Winona Ryder still had acting chops. The show has the perfect amount of creepy without being horror, because I can't do horror. And it doesn't have jump scares, which is fantastic.
Nice.
And so it's got creepy. It's really funny. The kids are really funny. But I think, like, main theme of the show is, like, it's got this heartwarming sense of, like, family and friend empowerment.
Yeah.
Because people have to come together to, like, solve the mystery that I'm trying not to give away about. But
say nothing.
You gotta.
I know nothing about
Stranger
Stranger Things apart from that it's, like, inspired by, like, Spielberg movies and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Old timey 80s nostalgia or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's.
Your phone is ringing.
That's my house thing. Okay. I can't believe I have to go get that. Okay, put a pause on the episode real quick. Okay. I'm so sorry.
Pausing out the episode. I'll just stay here while she goes to...
12 seconds later.
Anyway. Stranger
cool,
Things.
That's
fantastic.
extra editing I have to do. Cool. Yes.
We could talk more about Stranger Things after season 2 comes out, and we'll both have watched it. Isn't that right?
Will we, though? Because my watching shows ability is pretty low. Like, I just have so much trouble getting motivation to watch.
You can watch the whole season in like a day and a half. It's not that long.
How long are episodes, and how many episodes are there?
There were like 12. And
How long are they? Are they an hour?
They're 40 minutes.
You'll
You'll get through them so quickly.
It's just the motivation to start, you know?
No, I know. Because I had that too. I've been telling people that I will watch Stranger Things for like months now. And one day I was just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, what like sealed it for me was I watched the Guest Grumps with Finn Wolfhard, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the show that the kid on Game Grumps was on. And I felt like I already knew him a little bit, which was stupid, but he's a really good actor, and he's also in the movie It, which I'm gonna go see later today.
I'm gonna go see that at some point this week, actually.
Oh, good. We'll talk about it on
in my episode,
movies.
we'll be able to talk about it. Yeah, I was gonna actually ask if you were gonna go see that.
Yeah,
because apparently it's good.
I saw this, so It and Stranger Things have a lot of like similarities because you got a group of kids in the 80s who are just riding their bikes and like trying to solve mysteries and like defeat monsters, and because It came out, or at least the latest It movie came out after Stranger Things and has one of the same kid actors, and it's also in the 80s. Everyone's like, It ripped off Stranger Things, and I'm like, right, because that book wasn't written 30 years ago. Why don't people ever do their research?
Wasn't there like already a movie?
There's already a movie.
How can you not know that there was already a movie?
I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
The writer of Stranger Things even said he refused to, or am I getting this backwards? One of the writers said they refused to watch, I think it was the new director of It said he refused to watch Stranger Things while he was directing because he didn't want any any sort of visual or like dialogue influence to get in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I haven't even seen the old It movie because even though it's like old cheesy 70s horror now, I just can't do horror. I'm like,
isn't it Tim Curry?
Yeah.
I want to say it's Tim Curry, yeah.
So I kind of really want to watch it, but I'm like, if there's gonna be a clown jump scare in there, I'm gonna die.
You know, there's probably a clown jump scare in the new one, right? I'm just saying, it's gonna happen.
I'm gonna put the popcorn bucket on my head and close my eyes.
Classic. Anyway, what other shows did you watch? Because I feel like we can't talk about Stranger Things for much longer. Oh, no. Can we not talk about BoJack Horseman? Have you not watched season 4?
No, I haven't watched season 4. I have to wait for...
QJ, how can you do this to me?
Because
it's the one thing I wanted to talk about today.
I'm sorry, we can talk about seasons 1 through 3, which I binged.
No, I quit. I'm not doing this anymore. I quit.
Hello, Hollywood stars. I'm a Ryan Seacrest type.
Brilliant. Okay, season 4's amazing. I love it.
Some lady. You didn't finish the quote.
I will have forgotten everything about it by the time we actually talk about it.
Well, then maybe you should watch it again. It's okay. The next adventure episode is going to be pretty soon.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'll make Spiegel watch like an episode a night with me.
Good. Okay, good. It's really good. It's so good. I loved it.
No, but we're going to talk about anime.
Do we have?
I watched an anime called Silver Spoon, which the title has almost nothing to do with the show.
Okay.
So it's really weird. Anyway, so it's about this teenage guy who joins this. Okay, so
Ninja Academy.
No.
Does he do jitsus?
No, it's an agricultural high school.
Okay, already not as interesting as Naruto, but go on.
Well, I thought I was gonna be really uninterested in it too because I was like, I don't really want to watch a show where he just like milks cows and feeds pigs all day and like joins the equestrian club and learns how to shoot horses. And being an animal lover myself, you'd think I'd be really into that, but I was like, I don't know, like, how they're gonna make good stories out of this. And so, like, if you don't know, Japan, their like later high school years are kind of like university for us. So like, it's really important which high school they go to, and a lot of people don't even end up going to college because it's like it's almost like getting your master's degree. Not everybody does it. But he wasn't sure where he wanted to go to high school. And he was just kind of running away from his home life. And he's this kid who doesn't really have anything that he loves or is connected to. And he's really smart. So he gets into this like agricultural school because he's just like, I don't know where else I'm supposed to go. And he ends up like making a lot of friends and like having a lot of very, very deep moments like with the people around him. And he, I wrote a lot of notes about it in my journal because I really ended up connecting with this character.
Cool.
Because...
Does he become the next Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village? Does he pass his Chunin exams? I'm just using all of my anime knowledge. Exams? His Chunin exams. Do you not know about the Chunin exams, QJ? It's what every ninja has to pass to become a qualified ninja.
Why don't you talk about ninjas for 30 seconds while I read through my notes?
I figured that's what I was doing. I'm just killing dead air right now.
Okay. Anyway, this is probably one of my new favorite animes. I absolutely love it. Okay. It's 2 seasons long, and one thing I appreciated about it was that it was a male main character, which slice of life anime almost never does. And there's only a little bit of like romantic tension between him and his female friend, but it it goes absolutely nowhere. Like their like friendship with each other was primary, and the fact that he like kind of has a crush on her is just like barely even a story. So that was refreshing. And the main thing is that this guy has so much envy for the people around him who have like dreams and passions and like places they're going in life, and he's just like, I have nothing. I am nothing. All I am are like the connections I make with the people around me. Yeah. And I'm like, this is how I feel all the time. And like he joins the equestrian club just because he's required to join a club, and the girl he likes is in it. And then he doesn't even like horses, but then he like sort of learns a lot about seeing the world through someone else's eyes just by like learning how to ride a horse. And then he learns a lot about like the more nurturing side of his personality that he didn't know he had by raising this runt piglet and like getting it big and fat so that it could actually like sell. And then he doesn't want to sell it because he loves it, but they're like, it has to be sold for meat. Like, it would cost too much to own as a pet. And so he's like, okay, I'll buy it. And then he buys all the pork and bacon and then eats it, even though, and he's like, I love this pig. His name is Pork Bowl. But then he, like, eats it and shares the bacon with everyone. And I'm like, that's a really strange way to love an animal. But, okay.
Classic.
I love it. I'm definitely going to watch it several times throughout my life. What else did I love about it? I don't know.
Did you love the battle with Sasuke on the waterfall? Because that was a really good scene.
No!
Did that remind you of something though?
No!
Oh, okay.
You just need to be quiet. Except you should talk more because I don't know how to read through.
Anime.
Anyway.
Anime is trash.
No, he has this moment with the teacher where the teacher tells him it's okay to like run away from your old life because sometimes running is the only way we can survive and like get on to the next stages of our lives.
That's like a Sonic the Hedgehog meme.
Yeah, Silver Spoon was fantastic, and it was the only thing I couldn't collect my thoughts on, so I can't say too much more about it. But next episode I'll watch another anime, but I'll end up just talking more about Silver Spoon because it's my favorite. I love Hakuken. He's the best character.
I'm glad.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get a pig and name him Pork Bowl, and then I'm gonna eat him. I think that's it.
Is that it?
I think these are my adventures.
Remember when you used to play video games? Remember when the whole point of this show was
to get me to play more video games?
Play video games
on the stupid ZBN
and you
video game.
You had 4 months and you haven't played one video game.
I've been trying to go to the gym every day. Okay, so I've been bettering myself as a human being.
0. Okay, let me try and think. I've watched a few things, so I can probably fill like 10 minutes real quick.
I went to concerts.
Of things I've done. No, I've taken over now. I've invaded your episode.
No, I went to Dick's.
I wish I could go to Dick's as well.
No, yeah, it was the Dick's Sporting Goods Arena in Denver, Colorado. They went to a 3-day fish run.
Oh, everyone... okay. I'm suddenly not interested anymore. I thought you were going to say you went to see a good band.
Excuse you. No, everyone was high and camping the entire time, and it was really fun.
A band that you have to get high to enjoy. Sounds like high quality.
No. No, that just refers to the quality of the person. No, I was just sipping on a flask the entire time because that's how you actually have fun.
By getting drunk?
No, it was a good time. No, just a little bit buzzed. No, someone actually tried to take Deg's flask away from him. He was like, no.
Classic.
It was a good time. Did I mention to you that I saw Alice Cooper a few months ago?
I think you did. I think you mentioned that on an episode. But I can't remember.
Yeah, but maybe it was the lost episode. Yeah. Yeah, I finally saw Alice Cooper live, so I can die happy.
Yeah,
And
Alice Cooper's rad.
Yeah, it was one of the best nights ever. I was really, really happy because he was only playing an hour away from where I live.
Although I am surprised that he's still alive, let alone still playing. Like, that's impressive.
Oh,
Isn't he, like, super old now?
He's 65 years old.
Oh, that is younger than I thought. Okay.
Yeah. No, he's still running around the stage, getting his head chopped off, and wearing a big Frankenstein's monster costume.
Nice.
And his band members are really cool. He's got, like, young guitarists hopping around the stage and, like, doing crazy things with their hair. And he, like, sets himself on fire and puts on a straitjacket and gets syringes stuck in his neck.
Nice.
And he's just singing ballads the entire time. And his voice is all gravelly, and I love him, and he's my father.
Yeah, I remember seeing, like, interviews and stuff with Alice Cooper, and he just seemed like the coolest guy. Like,
he's really cool.
I got respect for that dude. He's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Game of Thrones had a season. Do you want me to talk about Game of Thrones?
I'm still in the middle of the second book.
I saw a really angry comment that you put on Facebook where some, like, page had posted Game of Thrones spoilers, and you were really salty about it. I don't know, it came off my timeline because Facebook is garbage and just shares everything with everyone.
Well, maybe if you would have more than 7 friends,
I actually have like more, 70 friends or something like that. So
ooh, that's like half is what I have.
Well, I mean, mine are actually my friends, not just random people.
No, I unfriend people all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, I haven't spoken to you in a bit, so goodbye. No, Game of Thrones was really good this season. It was pretty excellent. Beautiful season. I'm not gonna say anything though because you'll get mad. Even though I'm pretty sure the books are gonna diverge from the show at this point because George R. R. Martin hasn't finished the books, but the show is ending. So it's like I'm pretty sure they're different stories now. So I don't actually think show spoilers are book spoilers, but you know, it's still like
who knows.
I'm not
at this point. I honestly don't even care that much about Game of Thrones spoilers. Every time I see something, they're like, blah, blah, blah gets killed by this person. And I'm like, I'm sure that would have happened eventually. Like, I'm sure I could have seen that coming because everyone and their mother dies in these books. And I'm sure lots of people boink each other and, like, have babies. And so it's like, there's a romance, like, triangle between this and this character. And I'm like, that's not really surprising. I'm sure eventually I would have seen that coming. Like, classic. I don't know. Nothing's gonna. No, I have this big problem with. There's too many characters. Big problem with the show at the moment, and that's the plot armor is way too strong. Like, there are some characters where it's like, this is a show that's entire like draw at the start was characters die all the time, and it's anyone can live or die, and it doesn't matter, and it's not predictable. And that was what was fun about it for the longest time is that it wasn't predictable because people would just die. But now it's like I know, like unless they're setting... that certain characters are never going to die.
This whole season...
They've the brain.
The whole season they did like so many fake out like, maybe this character's going to die, and you're just sitting there like, no, you've already done that fake out with that character, and I know they're not going to die this time because they're plot important. Shut up, go away, stop trying it. It's just annoying. I'm just like, unless they're setting me up to think that characters have plot armor so that in the next season they can be like, lol, just kidding, and like rip it off, then that's fine. But currently, in that last season, I was a bit annoyed about, and I'm not going to say which characters specifically because that's kind of a spoiler, but like there are some, like people who have seen the season will be able to agree with me. There are characters where they tried to do maybe this character's going to die, and you're just sitting there like, I doubt it though. Oh, they didn't. Okay. When in season 1, if that character had been in that situation, they would have just straight up died. Like, it's ridiculous. It's just annoying. It's like, no, kill people off, please. It's anyway, Game of Thrones rant aside, I don't know if I've got anything else to talk about.
Is that over?
All right.
I wasn't listening.
I listen to everything you say for the 50 minutes of freaking and then there are some bonobo monkeys on a TV show, and
you remember what they were called?
Dumb incest attic book, and I listened to all of that, and I want like 3 minutes of Game of Thrones rant, and you just don't listen.
Bonobos totally have incest with each other.
So rude.
Constantly, like, having sex.
You should write a book about bonobos being trapped in an attic and having incest, because I feel like
that's basically what happened. It wasn't an attic, it was a whole
meth
house.
Lab.
In a meth lab with horses.
Yes.
And let's see, what other themes do I have? And everyone's on an island, and then they all go back in time to the 70s, and then fight monsters in the Upside Down.
Yes.
With their with Under the Covers as the background soundtrack.
Classic.
It really all does tie together.
That does. It's all done. That's the end of the episode. I'm just going to say, before we leave, you should watch Kingsman, and then you should watch Kingsman 2, which is in cinemas at the moment. I'm not paid to say this. It sounds like a paid promotion, but Kingsman 2 is so hype, and I'm going to go on about it for like ages probably in my next episode. So you should totally watch it.
Next adventure episode, we're going to talk about BoJack Horseman season 4.
Yes, we
Only
are.
if we can also talk about both seasons of Stranger Things. So.
When is the next episode going to be? Is it going to actually be next month? Or
it's October 17th.
Is it going to be in 4 months' time?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the next episode of Stranger Things.
No, I meant the next episode of this.
No, I'm gonna try and record it before I go on vacation, which I leave like the day. Shoot, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, if
this is not an interesting conversation to have while we're still recording. Let's talk about the next episode after we're done.
Okay, but we maybe will be next month. If it's like your Stranger Things 2 season 2 comes out on the 17th and you want to record on the 18th, I'm just saying it ain't gonna happen. Like,
well, that's the problem. Is it comes out on the 17th and I'm supposed to leave on the 18th. So
yeah.
Did you just pull those dates out of your head? Because that's my exact situation.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen then, is it?
Well, see, maybe I can record on the plane while I'm traveling across the pond.
No.
Across the United States.
I refuse to edit audio that's been recorded on a plane. I won't touch that. I'll just have to upload it raw and everyone can suffer.
Okay, this is a fabulous outro. I'm glad everyone gets to
We're so
have
bad
an
at
insight
outros.
on how we this is how we organize our show. Everybody, we just fight. And
We're so bad at outros. Why?
will we have another adventure? Let's find out.
Let's find out next time on...
Find out.
Is it next month or is it in 4 months?
Stars and YouTube stars and celebrities. Do they record things? Let's find out.
Oh
I'm
god,
really
are
bad
we
at
done?
making jokes.
Can we...
Goodbye.
Bye. Laters.
Bye, books.
I'm gonna go take some meth.